Before I get started, I have some bad news. 3 pieces. The first is I am probably an anti-Rory. The second is this talk will contain GA4, if you're allergic. And the third is there is no prize. So when I grew up, I, surprisingly, didn't want to be a data analyst. Much to my parents' disappointment, I wanted to be an astronaut. Can anyone tell me this film?
Apollo 13?
There is no prize. And I've decided that I'm going to wedge space into every single talk I do this year because A, it's way more interesting than data, and B, it's quite fun and we can talk about it. I've actually got a separate talk on different analogies to use about data, but that's various different films. So I'm going to talk today about recovering lost data. This is my simile, if you like. In Apollo 13, everything was going smoothly. It was the best launch since Elon Musk. Wait, no, that was 25 years ago. It was 30 years ago. But it was the best launch ever. It was amazing. Happy days. It's a bit like launching a website and everyone's really comfortable and thinking this is the best investment we've ever made. It's going a million miles an hour, selling God knows how many and whatever. We can see the whole Earth. We're going to make billions. It's all good. Why are we wasting time? Let's just keep going. Let's pour paid media over the top. We'll just keep selling. Fairly famous line. Fairly famous guy. He only works in problem films. Have you noticed that? He's always fucked. The guy is completely screwed. I'd never get on like an aeroplane if he was on it. You know it's going down, or he's going to have to somehow land it on the Hudson. That's a lie. Let's be honest. We do all sit next to Tom. And yeah, obviously it went wrong. Just for those who haven't seen Apollo 13, shit hit the fan, as you can imagine, and he was calling Houston. But the guys back at base were the ones to try and work out what was wrong, right? Tom, can't actually remember his name in the film, Jim, that was his name, was trying to navigate in the air. And that's our teams live, that's everyone who's working on SEO, paid media. In the analytics side, we get the back-end stuff, we get the stuff that nobody else wants to touch, with good reason. And in Apollo 13 and in our websites today, our websites definitely tomorrow, we'll be losing data that we can't see. We won't know it's not there until it's too late. We won't know that it's not there until our campaigns show poor performance. We won't know it's not there until we're spending God knows how much money on something that doesn't bring the return that we expected it to, and we then have to justify it. You can see the anti-Rory thing. Because he's right, but he's also not in the real world where we have to go and see a financial officer and say, I've spent this much money and you've got nothing back. So what did they do? They investigated it. Everything looked okay-ish on the ship, but back at base, they know that all these trigger systems, even in the 1960s, are still showing errors. And someone's got to deliver that message to them, that they're not coming home to their families. I mean, it's not quite that drastic in digital marketing, but bear with me. Don't tell my wife. She thinks it's life and death. So they're going out to investigate. They've got their special suits on. We've got our special tools that we go and play with and think we're the best thing. But these guys are the most worried people, and they couldn't convey that message back to the astronauts, right? They know what's happening. They know what's at risk. They know that this whole project, I don't know how many millions it cost them, is going to go up in smoke, and they are getting a bad report. They are getting a bad review at the end of this, at this point. Round peg, square hole, anyone? This is where these guys came into their own. They had to come up with a plan that could work billions of, I don't know how many miles away, a long way away, completely removed from the situation. And if anyone's seen the film, this is the guy. He's got it all on his shoulders, bless him. But it's that communication, his strength of communication and understanding of the situation that allows them to be confident in getting that over the line. And that's kind of what we have to do today, because there are so many things, and I'll show you them later. We are going to get technical, I promise. It's not just pictures. Could be though. Of what has to change? How do we have to operate now compared to 10 years ago? We can't just throw up analytics on the site and it work, because GA4 needs a bit more delicacy than that, as you all know, because I heard the reaction to GA4. So then they put the plans into place and everything works and the marketing team's happy. And this guy gets to go home a bit more relaxed. Something in your reporting is wrong. Is pretty much how I should have a tagline or a t-shirt or something for every call, every meeting I've ever been in. You all felt that when I wrote that just now. I saw 2 people scratch their head and go, shit. But not everyone has the technical understanding where or why, and you can't prove it, but you will be accountable for it. And it costs decisions, and I'm about to talk to you about a case study, not quite at Apollo 13 levels, and it also costs money. Amanda showed earlier about the revenue that can be missed through the PDPs not being correct. This is similar. You've got similar issues to fix across here. So I said introduce myself. I'm Dan. That head's even bigger than the last one. I've done this for a long time. I've done various pieces across digital marketing and strategy. And 3 things I'm going to give you today are an example of a real UK retailer where GA4 was just dicey. 3 specific things to fix, and a way to find your own gap before you leave, so that you can have confidence or at least knowledge of the problem. Because if you get ahead of the problem, then that's half the battle. If you can say, I know that's a thing, rather than, oh no, I didn't know that, you sound way less confident. So, I didn't even have to ask the question, that was so much fun. That's like magic. Yeah, a lot. So let me tell you about the client. They're a premium British retailer. I won't say which one, because obviously I don't want to, they're not shit anymore, but they were. And you might get a job with them. They take bathrooms from mine to my spare one. And like every retailer, every trader, every day dashboards, constant data, right? Always there. And every day they were like, well, this is not quite right. I've amended these figures, so they were a lot bigger than this. The issues were a lot bigger. But I'm sure that everyone in this room has seen these kinds of figures and gone, that's not right. That can't be right. And the way that we talk this through is a challenge every day, because to be fair to Rory, it's that process of you're going to be accountable for it. You're accountable for this channel, this performance, this is what you're doing. So they're working across everything. Direct, paid search, email, social, organic. And it just doesn't feel right. I looked at it, the first second I just looked at it, it was wrong. So paid search, 6 figures a month, about 150 grand. Direct, massive. Numbers that didn't even add up. A lot of fun. So they raised it. They went to the media agency, went to the dev team, said, can you fix the tracking? Analytics tool, got some stick. You can guess which one they were using. But nobody gives them the answer they trusted. And so, like anyone, when you have a conversation about trust, you have to offer an answer, and then it will get merited, it will get weighed in the person's mind, and they'll go with it or they won't, and you'll get another dismissal, and that's you buried. They did the worst possible thing in my view, which was they canned everything immediately. The CMO was a bit of a bruiser, and just went, no, we're not doing this until it's fixed. Okay, fine. maybe that doesn't quite, not quite that level, sounds familiar, but I'm sure that you've definitely paused on a situation, said, I haven't got enough data to make a decision, I haven't got enough data to put into this model, I haven't got enough data to do X, Y, and Z that I want to, I don't understand enough to move forwards. And that's a real challenge. When you're in that position, you constantly want more data, but also you want it to not be true, any of it, because otherwise you'll have to do something and then you will get judged on it. So the agency phoned us, which is genuinely, I wish I had another t-shirt. I don't know if, can you wear two t-shirts at the same time, different message? I don't know. This is every week, probably, I get a call, something like this, that says, something is wrong, our data looks funny, it's usually on a Monday, our data looks funny, we don't know what, and we need to be able to trust this data because we can't do anything. And that's a real problem, like, every week. There you go. They have their data, they have loads of data. GA4 is packed with mostly crap, if I'm honest, because it's set up so badly across most organizations. It's not a great platform, but it's not as bad as it could be. There's no trust. There's no trust in it because it's an easy bandwagon to jump on. It's actually more accurate than universal analytics in a lot of cases, if they're set up right. So, one question they had looked at but hadn't looked at properly. What does the actual, our back end, I mean, in their case, their CRM is their source of truth. Don't ask me why. I wasn't opening Pandora's box. What does it look like in comparison? No, obviously it didn't match. That's fine. But by what proportions? That's the key thing here. What are we trying to do? This is a really bad representation of that. This is a much better one. It was 54% out in April 2025. Shopify, their backend, their sales platform, 54% higher than GA. I mean, I smelled opportunity to buy into that, if I'm honest. So yeah, April 2025. But that, as I talked to you before, wasn't the worst part because it wasn't even across the board. What we could see is if we broke that down, bam. Anyone want to guess on the number one channel? Direct. Everyone's favorite. Sorry, you didn't yell it, but I did. It is the bucket where everything goes to die. I hate it. That's a fucking t-shirt. It is awful, and it destroys decision-making instantly because you cannot control it. Because it's just everything else. It's just a whatever. So, as I said to you, paid search was massively underreported. This was why the agency called us. I guess probably scared for their contract, if we're being brutally honest. They were scared. Their performance looked shit. Well, really bad, actually. Where were they at? Number 2, yeah, 26,900. Awful. As I said, 6 figures. The data said it barely converted. And obviously, this room gets it because in digital PR, in SEO, in all organic channels, you don't have the paid platforms that are forcing metrics into the brainwashed minds of our clients, where Facebook will claim every conversion going, and paid search will be like, I'll have just that one. Now you've really messed the attribution up in that person's mind. So this is a real problem for this paid search agency. So what did we do? We could cut the paid search, which is what the data indicated. We could just say, yep, direct is working. It's the way it should be. We're maybe getting a massive brand halo effect and everyone's coming direct. I call bollocks on that. Or we trust the data and just carry on as we are. Or, as I said to you, they froze. They just did nothing. They said, right, we're not doing anything until we fixed it. Which actually I think is probably a good thing because it amplifies the problem. I'm a big fan of amplifying the problem before you go and make a decision. This might be a bit excessive, but... So, when I was thinking this through, thinking the slides through, I thought of multiple times that this has happened, as I've said to you, that people have called me and said, this is an issue. I'd like you to do the same. Just have a think about when the last time was that you had data and you were desperate to show that this was a thing, but actually it couldn't be possible. And that trust element came into it, and the confidence and the workarounds and the multiple layers of this aspect, this attribute, everything has to be lined up. And it's a really difficult conversation to have. So that's really what happens, is the trust erosion. I don't think the numbers, the metrics, the money, doesn't matter. It's the trust erosion. As soon as you bite into that trust, it goes quicker than you want it to. And data does that really fast now. I've definitely learned that. So there, yeah. So what we found was that 3 things were mattering. I'm going to walk them through. So the first is GA4 was not set up correctly at all. That's quite often the case, I'll admit, but this was a real challenge to start there and actually make it right on the client side. As is, don't make any changes, no new tooling, nothing, just go look at the client side. This is how this works. Browser makes a request, browser pushes a request, and GA4 makes a collection. The challenge there is that ad blockers get involved, things like ITP, and network calls get involved. And it starts to block, and you end up in a situation where you're getting somewhere towards 25% less data that way. Okay, so we've got a minus 25%. We've got iOS to ITP truncating cookies, which means that you're ending up in a situation where if I come once a month for 12 months, I look like 12 Dans, which is terrifying for anyone. And so you end up with a real issue in what's real. So it looks like there's 30% more, or in my case, 12 times more. So there's a huge amount of data we can collect there. Fine. How do we do that? We do server side. You might all be familiar with this, but it's still not prevalent in more than 90% of websites, I would say, worldwide. We're making one call and pushing that request out to various different partners, rather than pushing individually here. Today, there was a post on LinkedIn by Simo Ahava, and he said that ad blockers are becoming more smart to this kind of stuff. Ad blockers effectively look for patterns in outbound requests, and so GA is getting even more blocked, even on the SGTM side. So we have to be even more smart. It's a cat and mouse game, but you have to be even more smart on that side. So there will be even bigger loss of data. So one outbound request, not 12, makes it a lot easier for us to manage, but also for the site to collect data. We also do it via first party. So if it's via a Google domain, ad blockers can just look for that straight away. Easy stuff. But if it's via, I don't know, they're not a client, but fortnumandmason.com, ad blockers aren't going to block Fortnum and Mason requests. That's just not happening. And then, as I said, the first-party cookie lives longer. So if you take the example I gave of 12 Dans, if we truncate that, there's 12 of us. If we have it one cookie, we can extend it to 13 months and beyond on the server side. Okay? The other side of this is, and this is where I will agree with Rory a bit, don't hold me to it. Everyone else has these metrics, right, in GA4. But on the server side, you can start pushing your own data in. So we do this with a couple of clients where we'll put in, rather than having a ROAS, we'll have a profit on ad spend. Or we'll have inventory. How much of the stock have we got left? Or we'll push in color, size, availability, whatever it might be. And actually that gives us a much better and much more custom view of our client's performance, rather than just ROAS. So server side gives us a bit more option and control. Yeah, so you can control that. And that, so before we were missing out on about 30%, now we're missing out on about 30% again, roughly, in this area. And I don't think it's an option anymore. I think it's just table stakes. I think it's just the way we have to collect data. You can do both, and actually Meta expects you to, but that's what I think we do. The final fix that we ended up with was consent. This is so badly done. So I would say probably 30 to 40% of users are declining tracking. I would also say that there are ways that we can collect data even when they do decline tracking. And a lot of businesses still have decided if they don't consent, we just don't track at all. Not even aggregate. Fair enough, we can't track individuals, but not tracking aggregate is madness. So you're probably all familiar with Google Consent Mode v2. What happens when someone declines? On the vast majority of cases, no signal is sent at all. If you're not using v2, no signal gets sent. It's just a hard block. You don't get any data. You don't get to see how many came to your site. If you use Consent Mode v2, an anonymous signal gets sent, and you can aggregate reporting. So you can start to understand those channels better. Google won't see no signal. It won't go, I don't know what's happening there, direct. It will just go, right, okay, I can model the conversion based on what's happened before. Yes, like I said, most of them aren't sending these signals at all, and you actually get a significant boost back into your business because you've got that data available, so you can start recovering visibility of modeled conversions, modeled sessions, understanding how many sessions it takes to get to a conversion, understanding how many touch points there are across all of your media, whether it's digital PR, whether it's anything else. You can start to see that. So yeah, it's not a compliance problem at all, in my view. It's an opportunity. So back to our retailer example. We made those changes. Again, this is a poor visualization of that. What we ended up with was a difference of 3.4%. So April 2025, there was a 54% difference. April 2026, 3.4%. We recovered over 50% of their revenue back into J. So we can see that number one line, horrific, and then not so horrific. The number two line, this is April 2026, not so horrific. In fact, very well performing. They could make decisions again. They could see which campaigns were driving revenue. They could actually start to look at the data and optimize rather than look at the data and cry. So if you remember nothing else from this talk, fix your client-side GA and you'll get some decent data back. Put in server-side, you get even more data back. Fix your consent, that's where a big opportunity is. Thank you.